Is that the house for the school though?
It's
I
a,
have to look there.
Yeah, I have to
don't know
go.
today.
I can't. I
don't know
don't
what
drive
you're
down
talking
there that
about either,
much.
yeah.
So assuming they don't have a permit, and maybe they do, I don't know. But
I have no
assuming they
idea.
don't, who enforces that?
That would be our office would have to.
once somebody complains to you.
Because we just don't, and I guarantee you, we've probably got, what do you think we have for home occupation permits or home-based business permits? Maybe 30, and I guarantee you, there's probably 200 out there, and we don't go, I mean, quite frankly, it's Michelle and I and Lori in our department, and we don't go out and start going door to door to see, so, I mean, the laws are there for the honest people, to
I
be
see
honest,
20 people in an hour. What are you doing in there?
And a lot of people probably don't even know that they should have a home occupation permit. I
That's
mean,
very
a
true,
lot of
because
them.
until I was reading this,
wouldn't have known
I was thinking,
before I
I'm,
started
I'm,
working here.
am I?
So,
Yeah.
so like B&B tax people out on Rodeo Road. She does taxes out of her garage. Does she have one to do that?
Rodeo Road, I'd have to look at the zoning, so she may already be a commercial zone, even though she is a
You would think
residence.
she's
I don't
not.
know, I'd
It's
have to look.
residential.
Is it residential? I guarantee you
Say
she
there's
doesn't
no
have one.
There's no commercial out there.
I could
close
guarantee
to
you
her.
she doesn't have one.
North Buffalo, 2000 block.
I could almost guarantee you she doesn't have one.
And she's got a nice office in her garage. And goes in there.
Most of the ones that we have are like, people that are, gunsmiths, because they're licensed through
Oh,
the
guns.
federal, through the
Guns.
guns, so they have to have a zoning, approval in order to get that federal license. So then they'll come in and get a home occupation permit. And those, they do a lot of internet sales and that sort of thing, so.
Is 5 a quorum?
Six.
I count,
And it is a quorum.
Oh, you do
I count, yes,
count, my bad.
one.
Wasn't counting the chairs. It's been a long day.
You
They only get longer,
Is a
David.
quorum. I was thinking county.
Yeah, because
is
five
on
would be,
this one,
because we
so
only
we
have
would've
9,
been okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you dare leave.
That
doesn't mean you can leave.
County is 6.
Or 5:30.
Right now, it was 5:29 when I looked. We will come to order. This is the April meeting of the North Platte Planning Commission. Roll call.
Davies,
Here.
Winder, Fudge,
Here.
Bain,
Here,
Weber, McGann,
Here.
Jett, Forbes,
Here.
and Whirl.
Well, I didn't get you a
I know,
sheet.
I was, I was struggling.
Like going around, what's your name? What's your name?
Not fair, I
Hey, I got it.
That's
Should
the
we
only
just
roll call we
adjourn?
should have, so that's the only,
yeah.
one we'll have, so.
Current copy of the Open Meetings Act of Nebraska is posted at the back of the council chambers. We'll go to item 2 on our agenda. Discussion of the zoning code rewrite for ag, agriculture, commercial, and industrial districts, performance standards, home-based business / home occupations, and related topics. And I believe you all received a copy, and then, did you put them out here too?
Yep. So, first off, I want to thank all of you for all the work on the residential. They did have a city council work session last night that a number of you attended. They didn't change a lot of things or didn't suggest to change a lot of things, so I think it was an excellent job, and I do think the next time that is on the city council agenda that hopefully it will move forward. So, that being said, we want to continue to move forward with the next section. And so it's kind of the commercial related. I threw ag in with the commercial because it's a little bit different than residential. So what I basically did, we want to try and stay with the same type of format. So that's why you'll see the charts and tables in here. And this right now is just very, 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 very preliminary discussion. So if you've read through it, you see things you like, don't like. I mean, everything can be changed. We'll probably work on this for a couple of months like we did the residential. 2 or 3 months, we'll look at it at meetings and discuss and change and add. And so, you guys have anything that
Can I
really having a
start?
hang up with? Okay.
Sure.
And this is just maybe because it might affect the place where I work. Under special event, particulate matter of dust as measured.
Okay, I
I think
gotta
that
find
can,
it.
I think that can be a real difficult thing in our, like Nebraska Land Days environment, when it gets really, really dry.
The rodeo.
Yeah,
Okay.
outside.
I don't know, we don't have page numbers, almost. to-
Yeah, it's about,
Fourth from the back.
Air contaminants. Okay.
so I don't know if air contaminants is really a needed section of this thing. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Odor may also be one that you'd have to take into consideration, but with outdoor and western events, it's gonna be really,
Okay.
we could get crossways with this really quickly and not even mean to.
Okay. We'll look at that. This special events district, we've never had before. So one of the things that happens with like the Lincoln County Fairgrounds, Nebraska Land Days, the museum, some of these other areas, if they come in to get a building permit to add on to whatever, they have to go through a conditional use process because they're in an ag district. So what we were trying to do with this was to locate those special, unique types of events areas. And those are the ones that I know of right off the top of my head, to make it easier for them to be able to just come in and get a building permit and build what they need to build to carry on with their event instead of having to go through the whole long process.
And
So
the
that
off-
one's, go
The
ahead.
offsets and everything would be set forth in the special events.
Yes, and that's one thing that I was struggling with a little bit too, maximum building coverage. So like in our residential areas, you know, we give them 55% as maximum building coverage. So you do have to have some open space and lawn. So I was struggling with that a little bit. If we need a maximum building coverage in that area, if we shouldn't have one, I left it blank right at the present moment. I don't know what a good thing would be, or if we even need one in there. I mean, I'm sure they're not gonna cover their whole entire site with a building.
Well,
Because
But
there'd be
our-
parking too.
Our buildings, you know, is there such a thing as too many buildings, too many structures on a site?
again, this is way, way, way down the road, but let's say somebody wanted to come in here and put up a Viero Center, something similar to that, where it's a big, big building. You know, you're obviously gonna need a lot of parking coverage with that as well, but, you know, I'd have to go look at the site plan on that and see how much space the building actually covers in the grand scheme of
How
things
big
over
is
there.
the new one going at the fairgrounds? Do you have any idea?
Not nearly big enough to
Not big.
trip any triggers that I would think. And there's nothing in our strategic plan that would trip any sort of building coverage triggers either. But just things to think about.
I'll look at that air contaminants again and review it and see if maybe we should take it out or if we should. I'll check and see if any other communities have anything.
That was just something that caught my attention, and
Yeah.
I've seen some awfully dusty nights out in that place, despite our best efforts to keep it knocked
Yeah.
down.
And that'll probably happen with the racetrack too.
Yeah,
would be
absolutely
my
will.
guess.
Yeah, sure it will.
It's
Yep.
gonna be probably done when they build their new building anyway, so I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm gonna take a look at too is in the industrial regulations. We talk about noise, and I think I have some decibel readings. So it's got decibel readings of 65, 55, in an I1, and then in an I2 also it's 65 and 55. We've had a complaint on a use in North Platte on an industrial area. And so we don't have the equipment to go out and monitor it, so the building inspector has taken his phone, downloaded an app to check the decibels. Well, he was even doing it like just in his vehicle, when he was driving, you can get a decibel level of that 55. So that 55 might be a little low. So we may need to do some research a little bit on those decibel readings as far as noise goes. So I'm gonna see if I can come up with a good resource, and those maybe need to increase a little bit to see, you know, what's tolerable and what isn't tolerable.
The only one that there's a couple of plants that I can think of that crush rock, concrete, and that sort of thing that I would expect would be noisy.
Yep,
Did you say that's light industrial or the?
both light industrial and heavy industrial. It's under the performance standards section.
Okay. After the other one, great. Yeah, we need to start numbering them.
Yeah, we gotta start numbering the pages, so.
Well, if you consider that normal conversation in an air conditioner is 60 decibels,
Oh, my.
washing machine dishwashers are 70.
Yeah, I
City
think
traffic is
55 is
80 to
too low.
85.
55 is definitely too low
Yeah.
then at that point.
Gas-powered
So-
lawnmowers are 80 to 85.
What was that?
Gas-powered lawnmowers, 80 to 85.
Really?
Yeah.
Motorcycle,
It doesn't
95.
take very long to get over that.
Motorcycles,
Straight.
Harleys, or
Right, straight pipes. Motorcycles, straight pipes.
Yeah,
Approaching
noise
subway
thing.
train car horn can be 100.
yeah, so that's something else I'll take a look at. And our current zoning regulations are in the 55 decibel reading, so I think, yeah, so.
Well, I can't
think-
run my dishwasher anymore.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's, I
darn.
mean,
There goes me doing laundry.
Can't
yeah,
mow the
so-
lawn.
I think we'll have to take a look at that again for sure.
Can I use that excuse at home? I can't mow my lawn
Yeah,
because,
until the city comes over and says
Yeah.
your lawn's too tall.
Yeah.
And then you'll say, well, I can't mow it because I don't have a lawnmower.
I don't have a quiet
Right.
whisper.
Yeah. So, and then there was something else I was gonna talk about. Oh, we were talking about that a little bit before it started. The home-based businesses and the home occupation, okay? So currently, right now, and I would guarantee you a lot of the general public and a lot of the people that even work at City Hall don't realize that we have a home occupation permit application or a home-based business permit application. So those right now are for, people that are doing taxes would be a good example. People that are maybe they're an attorney or a retired attorney and they only do a couple of things, here and there. So they would get a home occupation to run, out of their house. The ones that are most common that we have are, like I was telling you earlier, the ones where people are gunsmiths. And so they have to meet zoning requirements in order to get that gun license, that sales license
FRC
through.
license.
Yes. And so they'll come in, they'll get a home occupation permit application, you fill it out. So the thing we want to remember when we're looking at that is these are going to be residential districts where these home occupations are going to occur. You want to protect the general characteristic of the residential neighborhood. So something where you have a retail storefront, so people are coming and going and shopping and doing that, you probably don't want to have in a residential district because you're going to get a lot of foot traffic in and out. And so that would be more suited to being in a commercial district. Caterers sometimes will come in and get a permit, and we have issued those before, as long as they're cooking in their house and then taking to wherever. They're not having people coming in and picking it up, or they're not actually doing the dinner at their location. Usually what people say, average residential, trips per day is what they call it, 4 trips per day. Is basically average residential use. So you come in and out of your house 4 times a day, that's gonna be an average residential use. So anything that's more than that would maybe be considered a commercial use, that would be better situated in a commercial neighborhood. I don't know, I mean, totally up to you guys, what you think, what's good. Contractors' offices, there's a few that we've permitted, contractors' offices, as long as they're not storing the material on their property to go to the next job.
Hairdressers.
Hairdressers, now that's interesting. So that one's,
I can only have one chair in the home-based, and I can have 2 in the home business,
yeah, the way these are
the way
written,
it's written.
yeah.
I can have only one, I could only cut one person's hair at a time.
Now,
One of-
True.
do you
Well,
even
yeah,
want
but
to allow those? Is that something that we should allow? Or should we force those individuals to go to a commercial property? Because if you start, the problem with allowing home occupations is they'll start out with 1 chair. Then pretty soon we got 2 chairs, and then pretty soon we got 3 chairs, and then pretty soon we got another hairdresser with us and we got 4 chairs. And the codes are only as good as your ability to enforce them. So that's another thing to think about.
Right. Because a lot of that doesn't get enforced anyway,
Yep.
so it's like. But I think four trips in and out's minimal. I mean, it should be more than that. I do more than that in a normal day.
Yeah, probably.
See, I don't do that at all on a normal day.
That's why the average, I suppose, comes in.
Yeah, I suppose that's right.
Cause I was gonna say, out of my house, I know I don't go out more, but my wife, she's back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
And she doesn't work at home at all, so, well, technically she says she does. But
You're on
She works
TV,
hard.
remember?
That
Saying
was-
she
that
watches.
was on the record. I know.
That was on the record.
I was gonna say, if she's
worked
watching, you're
hard.
in trouble.
He hasn't given her the YouTube website.
Yeah.
The other thing is you think of signage, and we were just talking about
Oh,
that
the
too
signage,
before, signage, should they be allowed? Right now, if you do a home-based business, you're allowed a 2 foot by 2 foot placard on your
On the
house.
house.
But
Not a sign
separate
out in the front
structure.
yard.
Yeah.
Is that something we want to allow? Is that something we don't want to allow? So that's another thing to think about a little bit. But you've always got to just remember, you're trying to protect that residential character of that residential neighborhood. So,
Another thing that I found, I think, was in the home occupations, it had to be in the residence itself.
yes,
But in the home-based business, you could have an accessory building.
yes.
Okay.
Now, that leads you to, okay, so you have your residence and my accessory building, I'm gonna have a home occupation and I'm gonna have a little coffee shop
In my garage.
in your garage.
In my detached garage.
In your detached garage. So, are you generating too much traffic? Is that more of a commercial use? So you've gotta think about what, people are trying to do, and you don't wanna keep people from trying to have that side job or that extra job. But you wanna also zoning is there not only to protect you from your neighbor, but also to protect your neighbor from what you're doing. So you've gotta think about how that's gonna affect that property value of that neighbor next door, or their, peaceful neighborhood or whatever it is that they value.
I wondered why I could do pet grooming, but I can't have a kennel.
Well, because you've got noise levels, and especially if it's an outside kennel, you're gonna have that dog overnight probably. You're gonna have a barking dog outside, especially if you have 3 or 4 or 5 kennels. Spaces for them.
Okay, and then a same kind of thing, I can work on lawnmower engines, but not small engine repair. A snow blower.
That would be
They're
like a
one and
lawnmower.
the same.
They're the same.
No, they're not. Snow blower
No,
does
no, but
snow
they're-
and a lawnmower does grass.
But the engine that powers them are the same animal.
Right.
And one of the things, and I'm a little even hesitant to put that in there, but that's what a lot of places do, because the thing that you'll see happening is if we've got a couple of small engine repair shops, I guarantee you, and they're probably illegal. But what happens is then the extra parts end up in the backyard or out in the street or in the front yard or wherever the case may be. That's a problem when you do those engine repair services or
Well, I
anything like
can,
that.
I can think of at least one that I know of, I've driven by a number of times that they fix the stuff, but then they also take old stuff and fix it and sell it, and there's a line of these things out in front of the house.
Yep. And that's probably the one that we've got after several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my guess. And again, like I said, you don't want to take away from people trying to earn a little living or extra cash on the side, but at the same time, how do you, it's like those ongoing garage sales. We used to have one down the street here not very long ago that they had a continuous garage sale all summer long. So instead of picking a weekend where you would have a garage sale, they have a garage sale every day of the week, 5 days a week, all the way through the summer.
Now you've got a thrift store.
Now you've got a thrift store instead of a garage sale.
Yep.
So those are lots of things to think about when we're looking at, home occupations. And again, maybe you don't want to allow them, maybe you want to allow less than, what I've put in there as suggestions. Maybe you want to allow more. But those are some of the things that we really want to take a look at.
Another question that I think I understood, and this is more on, I think it's on the light industrial.
Light industrial, okay.
Right. on the use limitations. Do I understand this correctly, that if parking is located in the front yard setback, then the front yard setback is a minimum of 50 feet? Okay, I'm right below a table, the height
Yep.
and lot requirements.
Yep.
If parking is located in the front yard setback, then the front yard setback is a minimum of 50 feet. When adjacent to, right below that, when adjacent to a residential district, no parking shall be allowed in the required front yard within 30 feet of such residential district. So I'm envisioning a front yard setback of 50 feet, but it's adjacent to a residential area, so 30 feet of that has to be no parking.
Yes.
Is 20 feet sufficient
To park a vehicle?
to parking? This is the light industrial, so, and I think it's the same in the heavy industrial. I think I saw it twice.
20
Yeah.
feet should be sufficient.
I didn't know,
If you
because I just
park
wanted a
them-
place to park.
Because usually they're what, 9 feet wide, 8.5 feet wide by 16 foot?
So 20-foot parking area should be,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
And I'm fine with that.
It's getting to the parking area, if that's not included part of it.
Right.
Ah. Because
And
there is
maybe I
something
need to
about-
reword that a little bit differently.
Do we have, it's gonna sound like a really dumb question, but do we have I-2s next to residentials?
E6,
Yeah.
You mean the junkyard?
Yeah, east, no, is it east 6th?
1700 block of East Sixth or the 1800 block, 1600 block?
We have light industrial, and then right here would be heavy industrial right up again. Yeah, that's all light industrial. We've got 2 areas right now. There's an R3 there and an R4 there. So, usually you don't, because if zoning is done appropriately, it should go out.
Transition.
Yeah, so it should transition
Right.
out to where you should have a multifamily and then light industrial, then heavy industrial is how it, in a perfect world, that would be the way that it would work.
That, you're talking that number 1 under limitation uses?
Yes,
Yes,
So that's just the 30 feet right next to the
right,
residential, it's not the whole width of the lot.
wouldn't be.
Yeah, so that, I wouldn't think it would affect that much.
I don't think I marked anything else. Oh, what is considered an arterial street?
arterial street. So they're all classified. Arterial, you've got collector, which is your, kind of your local streets.
Maybe like
Arterials
B?
are busier. B would be an arterial street.
Buffalo?
Yes.
E,
E
E?
probably,
Phillip.
yes. Phillip,
Okay.
yeah. So they have a lot more traffic than what your collector streets do.
Sixth Street would be,
I would say that's probably a collector in some places. It might be arterial on West Sixth, but I would say it's a collector.
okay,
We have a street classification map I can bring
Okay.
too if you guys want to see it.
good.
Yep.
That was when I was looking at the neighborhood commercial district on the 3rd page.
Okay.
And it said commercial uses in areas located along arterial
Arterial.
streets.
Yeah. They're your higher traffic areas.
And is rock considered landscaping?
Yes and no.
I love it.
Gray area.
Rocks are great.
Right now, what we do is, we want to have no more than 50% of your landscaped area can be, non-vegetative. So your required landscaped area is supposed to be at least 50% green. And then the other 50% can be non-vegetative, so it could be rock. We don't like to see, and I know we have a few areas, especially right along like Jeffers and Dewey, going in and out of town. We have a few areas where they have completely rocked that. In some instances, it's okay because they really take good care of the weeds. In other instances, you've got rocks, weeds, and it just doesn't look nice. So we try, if we can, to get as much green space as possible because it just looks better.
And that 50%'s not broken down by front or rear?
Not currently, in this one, I can't remember exactly what I
This
put.
one says 35% of the required front yard shall be maintained in landscaping.
Landscaping.
That's why
Yep,
I
yep.
asked the question.
And then 50% of that is generally either vegetative or non-vegetative is what they can do. No, and right now we also have that in lieu of the required, if you can put it somewhere on that lot. So if somebody doesn't necessarily want to put it right in their front yard, if they can give us that same square footage somewhere on that property to make it look nice. It's just an attempt to try and make things look good.
I have another question that I didn't see in there, and maybe that's because it's covered elsewhere in
Okay.
someplace. If somebody puts in a new building on, let's say on Front Street,
Okay,
because that's where I remember driving down, and there's a sidewalk, and then there's a lot without any sidewalk at all. So if you're gonna walk on that spot, you'd be walking, how is that addressed overall?
well, some of those are probably older lots.
Yes, they
So
are, I'm
at
sure.
the time,
I'm sure
they
they are.
weren't required to do that. Any new construction is required to put in a sidewalk. And they have to meet ADA requirements, which is usually a 5-foot sidewalk, I believe now. But yes, new developments are supposed to be putting in sidewalks so that people have that walkability.
If a lot is sold, then the new owner doesn't have to,
Not necessarily. If they do if the lot's sold, they clear it, they come in and get new building permits, yes, they are supposed to put in.
if they had to get a new building
Yep.
permit. But if they didn't have to,
And we
then
just
they could
allow it to.
continue with,
As of right now, that doesn't mean it won't change, but that is an extra cost burden put on the new property owner, whereas it wasn't required to be done at the time that they did it, so. Just kind of allow it to go, but,
Okay.
that is something we can put in, we can, requirement of sidewalks, but new
I
developments.
don't know, do we want our people to feel comfortable walking in our town? Just thought
I
I'd
know I'd
ask.
definitely be in favor of that. I think it's super important. But,
Yeah.
I don't know how that's written exactly.
I haven't looked at either.
I know
Same
in,
with maintenance of sidewalks.
yeah, I know in subdivisions, anybody doing a new subdivision, they're required
have
to
to
put
have-
in
yeah.
those sidewalks, yep. So,
So if we're talking existing lots through town, and you have 2-3 houses on each side of you, and there's a vacant lot in the middle, and somebody buys it to build a new house, they're gonna have a 5-foot wide sidewalk connecting the 2.5-foot sidewalks.
yes.
So what's regulation if it's on a dirt street?
That is a good question.
I know of a place like that, so I was just curious.
I will find the answer to that one.
Because do they have to put in a concrete sidewalk if they aren't even supplied with a dirt, concrete street?
I will have all the answers
Keep
to
them out
your
of the mud.
sidewalk questions at the next discussion. I will do that.
Good.
I'll have to have a little bit of a discussion with the engineer, cause I'm not 100% sure how that would go, but that does make sense if you're on a dirt street.
Right.
Is there a need for a sidewalk? Yeah.
Yeah, there's none there now.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think
But-
they're required on a dirt or gravel street.
I don't think so either, but I don't wanna say that until I know for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. I didn't find anything on it,
Yeah.
but I don't always look at those real good.
So do you have any idea what percent of our streets within the city limits are dirt or gravel?
I don't off the top of my
you're
head,
gonna
but we
find
do
out,
have,
aren't you?
yeah, I will find out and bring that back to you. But no, we do have a map that Jenny in our department keeps track of how many dirt streets, how many are concrete, how many are gravel, blacktop. Yep, we have a map in the back office, so, yeah, I will bring that to you too. Percentage of dirt streets.
So can you think of anything else that we would like Judy to research?
know.
I love it. But the
Madam
more
Chair.
things we can answer now, the more things that we
Yep.
can consider now, the easier the city council will have in dealing with whatever we recommend.
I hate
You
break
have
up
to
the
leave.
party, I gotta go.
Thank
I
you,
apologize.
David.
Did anybody have any heartburn over performance standards. Well, we kind of did talk about that. Performance standards for industrial uses. We got with the air contaminants. He had kind of talked about that a little bit. Anything else you have really concerns with on those performance standards? Gases, vibrations, glare and heat?
I did notice that all the lighting were very consistent with that it's not going to disturb a residential area,
Yep.
since that was something that the planning commission dealt with a while
A while
back.
back, yep.
Like I think, I guess it got me thinking just about, I need to look a little bit closer on this really, but, like, along, kind of in a downtown area, you can smell a fertilizer, company down there, and that was one thing that I thought of just with air contaminants is like, how does that play in? Cause I know, are we gonna look to build something in that area or provide outdoor seating at all? That would be taken into account. And probably you wouldn't want your, customers smelling that necessarily. So just happened to realize that in my day-to-day. So anyway, I don't know, this being industrial uses, like, does this also cover then the downtown district as well, or do they have more stringent?
Well, as far as performance standards for industrial uses, not really, because the downtown should all be, commercial type uses. The industrial, I'm sure, is coming from north of the old Alco building, and that there is an industrial area right there. Yeah.
Well, I know where it is, but I just don't wanna.
Yeah.
It's actually on the north side.
Yeah.
So
Right.
in there, and so, it's like those commercial buildings, then you can, smell that. They have a
Smell it,
beautiful
yeah.
building, though. I mean, it definitely looks good along that corridor, and I don't wanna complain any other way, but anyway. It was like, does this also apply, I guess, to the downtown district? Anyway.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of is air contaminant section would be like the co-op, when they start moving corn around, you get a lot of corn floating through town. So that's about all I didn't even think of Nebraska Land Days and the rodeo dust and the parking lot dust out there, but that's fairly minimal. They try to keep it moist enough to hold it down, but
Anything I didn't cover in here that you think we should cover? In these sections?
So will we be looking at this again next month?
Definitely, probably for the next 3 or 4 months.
Okay, so we'll look at it again and come up with any questions or thoughts we might have, and some of the things we discussed today, and what your thoughts are on those. And it's hard to think of it as, okay, how about the things that are already in place? How is that going to affect, and why are we making this person put all this new stuff in when
Right.
you're sitting over there
grandfathered in.
grandfathered in and polluting the air and
Right.
Yeah.
and jackhammering the street, the city jackhammering the streets, and noise pollution at a school during the school day, and da 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 da. Do I
And,
want them to fix my street, or do I want them to not do that when school's in session,
right.
or not fix the street at
Yeah, I
all?
really don't like the smell of asphalt, but I want street fish.
They're so nice. It's
Exactly.
so nice.
Don't put it in concrete. Doesn't smell as bad.
What I'll try to do, you guys got it
10
pretty
times as long.
pretty big document this time. What I'll try and do is just maybe take out two sections at a time. Maybe just really look at the ag and look
Okay.
at, I don't know, I'll put 2 of them together and we'll just really look at one and go in depth in one.
And I think
And
that,
then-
that home-based occupation business thing is one that we really do need to address somehow, and then
Yeah.
figure out how to get the general public to understand what that is and why it's there.
Yep.
So, okay, are we
All
good
right.
on that issue? Any old business?
Nope.
Any new business? Well then, meeting's adjourned.
Perfect.
And if you haven't seen Clue, you gotta go see Clue.
Is it good? Is it
Oh
good?
my gosh. Yes, yes, definitely. Not just because Nelson's in it. But they've done a wonderful job.
Awesome. They put on great shows there. I'm constantly amazed by the talent in this
You know,
community.
it's a murder
Yeah.
mystery, right?
Yeah.
And so there are murdered people on stage. And they get tossed around because they're dead.
Funny.
Now think about being one of the actors and you're gonna let somebody else. I saw that and I thought, how are they looking so limp?
Yeah, it's trustful
Just-
to the max.
But I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. So anyway, I'm off.
That's cool.
No, it's actually nominated.